territory of them, and they've been looking after us for millenniums, and thank you for that. And the first issue on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Anybody have anything they want to add? It's pretty straightforward. I don't see any hands up, and I will approve the agenda by consensus. Move on to adoption of the minutes. Does anybody have is there any things that they'd like to, any omissions that they're witnessing on that? Everybody's happy with it. Take a look at that. It's all good. We will, the recommendation is that the minutes of the Community Center Select Steering Committee meeting held November 4th be adopted. We'll do that by consensus. Move into public comments. Anybody out there, Steph? No, thank you. And the updates, we'll start at 4.1, construction update, Liam Edwards, CAO. Go ahead, Liam. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to provide everyone with a brief overview of where things are at, since we're really getting to close to the start time. And I also wanted to just let folks know that we are in the process of developing a reporting template so that it can become a little more standardized and easy to push out to this committee and to council and to others. And part of that work is looking at aligning what's required for reporting to the province to make sure that what we're capturing from the constructor meets the provincial reporting requirements and then we'll meet our own internal requirements. We're trying to make it so that it's simplified, and we will ideally have like one reporting format that can be used for multiple different uses. And we're not there yet, so so bear with us while we just do a verbal update today. But so essentially, you would have seen the exciting news that we have secured a date and invitations have been sent out for a land blessing ceremony. And Gillian's going to talk a little bit about that more in the new business section. But aligned with that is we're trying to ensure that Golden Globe is able to get on site shortly thereafter to begin the project. And so we're in the process of trying to establish a kickoff meeting, and so a pre-construction meeting between ourselves and Golden Globe, which would help identify sort of any needs that they have to get on site. And their first move would be to get onto the site, put up safety fencing, and bring power to the site, and bring some utility trailers to the site, and start staging the site for prep work. That likely will occur after the land blessing ceremony, and they seem to be pretty flexible with those dates. The Golden Globe folks have also identified their team, and so they have a project director, a project manager, and the site superintendent identified for the project. And we're really excited because the site superintendent is actually a Bowen Islander named Simon Fowler. And I've not met Simon yet, but I understand he's pretty keen, and he's already met with our engineer, Patrick Graham, on site. And they've already started talking about some of the details around drainage and this, that, and the other thing. And so Simon's really keen to go. And it's wonderful to have somebody from on Bowen that's going to be supervising the project. Simon has a tremendous amount of experience in large complex projects, a lot in the healthcare sector, working on big hospital projects throughout the province. And so and I believe Sam has experience working with Simon in the past too. So if you want to add anything, Sam, that.
I can't believe that we're this lucky that we have managed to get Simon on this project. I've worked with them on many multi-million dollar projects in healthcare.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so one thing that we want to talk about too is as we move the project forward, and this is just a initial discussion. If the committee would prefer to have some more material behind this, it's around what are going to be the thresholds to manage change orders and to manage the project going forward. And so apologize for not having any materials supporting this in front of you today. We can bring that back to the committee at a later meeting if that were desired, but I wanted to just note that this was also raised at a finance advisory committee meeting too, about like, well, it might be good to establish some thresholds around projects like this in terms of what constitutes an approval from this committee and or that might go to council. And so we could establish some thresholds and really for change orders, there's kind of two primary, well, there could be three primary triggers that constitute an approval on our end. And so that could be a change that has a financial implication, a change that has a scope implication, and a change that has a schedule implication. And so, you know, we could talk about what percentage of the project cost or percentage of contingencies or specific dollar values that we would be targeting for a financial change, and similarly for design or scope change or a schedule change. Just throwing some ideas out there. You know, one thought is if we have a contingency that's around 1.8 million to 2 million, if we looked at changes that were 5% or less, so a change order that was in the magnitude of $90,000, would that be reasonable for the CAO to approve that, so myself to approve that without coming back to the committee? And would it be reasonable for the manager of recreation, the municipal project lead, to have a lower threshold, say $15,000, which is in alignment with what's currently in our delegation authority? You know, those are the types of things that we're going to be looking for from this committee to make a recommendation on what would those thresholds look like. One idea that Gillian came up with for this type of thing too is that we could have thresholds that are set for the beginning of the project, but once we hit a certain milestone, like 50% completion or 50% reduction of contingencies, that threshold then changes and maybe it gets lowered. So we start off with a higher threshold, and then as we get partway through the project, that threshold gets tighter so that we have a little more scrutiny as the project goes along. So I just putting that out there right now. I recognize there's no paper in front of you, but just wanting to get a feel from the committee about their initial thoughts on this. And I see Sam's got his hand.
Yeah, Sam, go ahead.
I know we have talked about these thresholds in past meetings, and I just wanted a reminder to maybe share that reminder about the process steps involved prior to an approval for those who may not have been part of that understanding piece. And so just if you allow me a minute, you know, we would have the consultant team review and do quality assurance and quality control of all changes and make a recommendation before it gets brought forward. And then the project management team as well would review a change before it would be proposed for Liam or anyone to approve that change. So it does have two layers of scrutiny before approval would be presented, or a recommendation for acceptance or not acceptance would be presented. I just had to share that.
Understand that. Thank you, Sam. That's good. Anybody have any questions around that particular piece before we move on?
Me.
Okay,
we've got a purchasing policy, so I think we have to, in whatever recommendations, you know, relate it to that.
Yeah, this would be looking, so this is not so much about the purchasing policy, is more, I think, about the delegation authority, because the purchasing policy, correct me if I'm wrong, Allison, is focuses on like what type of procurement we might have to pursue for
There's levels
purchasing?
for ability to actually make a decision without going to council. And that's the thresholds I'm talking about. And I just say, I don't ignore it, but if you're talking about a, recommendation, because if it's something that's going to increase the cost that we had approved,
Yes.
then, I think you could put forth an argument that the 50,000 threshold in the purchasing policy, anything over that would have to go to council's approval. But I'm just saying, in coming forward with the recommendations, don't ignore the purchasing policy.
Yeah, there's also the bylaw to delegate purchasing authority, which establishes the purchasing authority of different positions in the municipality.
I thought it was a policy. I didn't realize it was a bylaw.
Well, there's the purchasing policy, which goes much deeper than this bylaw number 164.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And
Well, that's what I'm referring to.
yeah, and so yeah, we would definitely make reference to those. And if we're looking to do anything that's different in those policies or those bylaws, we would need council's express approval for that. So that would it would come to this committee, and then it would have to go to council for approval. And Allison, it's a really good point. Like if we're talking right now, what I was thinking about was that we're talking about changes that be within scope of the budget. So within working with the contingencies that we have, right? And so, yeah, would not be looking for, if we're going to be exceeding the budget, then, so that would be exceeding the contingency allocation, then we would be definitely, I would not be making that, yeah.
But a change order could increase the contract amount. So,
yes.
and a change to the contract amount by more than 50,000 to me would trigger the purchasing policy.
Oh, okay. I hear you. Right. Well, then that could get quite cumbersome quite quickly, because the contract amount, we're pretty sure that we're going to have change orders that will exceed the contract amount, hence the reason why we have contingency. And so let's put some thought. We don't need to make a decision today, but I want to make sure that we're not constraining the efficiency of the project with the threshold being so little that we have to go to council for every little approval, because there's going to be a lot of them, and that's what can really bog a project down. And if we start delaying decisions because of the cumbersome approval process, then that can result in greater costs as well. So
I'm just saying, in formulating the policy, it's how we're going to deal with that. Then think about what's there, and it may have to be a policy that we get approved by council, because if you're going to get approval to go 100 or 150 or 200 in, then it needs to have some pre-approval with. I certainly respect Sam's comments about the 2 levels of screening it's going to go through before it gets to the committee. And the other thing is, each one of those things, there may be, 2 things could trigger that are really go together. It's not just, a scope change could also have an impact on timing, could also have an impact on whatever your third one was, can't remember.
Absolutely.
Schedule and design and scope. So you could have a change in floor area, for example, right?
Which could change design and would change timing too.
Exactly. And so, we would want to look at that, like what kind of a change to the scope or design would trigger the need to go back to committee, to council. Like if we're talking about changing the location of a closet versus like changing the square footage of one of the rooms or something like that. So we'll want to map that out as well as the schedule for sure. I mean,
the schedule is usually a moving target that you don't have a lot of control.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I would have thought that obviously I'm wrong, but I would have thought that the contingency would be part of the actual contract.
Well, it's not part of the contract, but it's part of the project budget. And
Yes.
so that's where, you know, to Allison's point.
Council approved that budget though.
Yep.
So why didn't they also approve the contingency to be used as required? Just to Allison's point, that's all. But I might, you know, obviously it's wrong.
Well, do you want somebody to make a decision to spend that whole contingency on one thing? You know.
No, certainly not. I'm just wondering about the purchasing policy. I just wondered if that would be inside or outside of the contract. Anyway, let's move on until we get something a little bit more solid on that, and we can tear it apart at that time.
Yeah.
Liam?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And for the I don't really have much more for a construction update other than what I'd already provided, unless Sam or Gillian had anything that they wanted to share on that.
Got anything out there, Sam or Gillian? I don't see any hands flying up there, so that's great. Okay, thank you.
The only other piece, I think, you know, as we kick off, Liam mentioned the kickoff meeting, is that we will be preparing an updated cash flow and schedule of values with the contractor. We're sorting out insurance criteria for the project, which will be carried both by the contractor and by Bowen. And WorkSafe BC clearance letters have been received.
Oh, good.
Good.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to
one more question.
Okay,
I guess we'll get notice on when tree cutting and all that stuff will sort of start. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and actually, good point, Councillor Moore. So that, yeah, we will be trying to get a clear schedule from them about when all of that works. There has been an excavation permit. I can't recall if the permit was issued, but it was requested. And so we're trying to get all of the necessary permits lined up. The building permit is, like, you will recall that a building permit was issued back in 2018 that was based
Probably
on
needs a little updating.
Yeah, and so that was submitted quite a while ago for updating. And so what's happening now, though, because of the sewer issues that we're facing, we're pursuing the use of a septic field, and we've engaged with CREAS, who has qualified personnel to design septic systems, is looking into that to be able to provide the planning department the level of confidence required to then issue the building permit. So it's very, very similar process to any of the other projects that are having to shift gears and move to a septic system.
There's part of the contingency being eaten up right now.
Well, you could say that, but you also, I mean, there was going to be a charge for capacity at the sewer treatment plant as well, in the neighborhood of $120,000. So, you know, I'm hopeful that the septic field would not cost $120,000. So.
Should definitely be within that, you'd think.
Yeah.
And I guess the other thing is just that when I asked about the clearing, there's the bird nesting season issue and all that stuff. So
yeah, so if we end up in a position where we don't make the window for the heron nesting, in particular herons are earlier than the rest of the birds, mostly, generally, then what we have to, and we've done this before with other projects, is we would have to have a qualified professional on site to be able to determine whether there are birds nearby, and you can also do hazing to make sure that you're not disturbing them.
yeah, well, yeah, or think about just getting the clearing done first
Before
maybe move on site. Just get the trees down. Yeah.
Okay, David.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. I'm just wondering, where will the septic field go? We've got that lower down area where we were going to have staging and then parking. That's
Yes.
a really obvious area, but we're already using that. What, do we have enough?
Not all of it. We'll find a
There's
place.
ample space in that area, and so that area was also being used for rainwater management, and so it has multiple retention and detention ponds already designed in the plan for rainwater management. And just adjacent to that, beside where the parking is, overflow parking is proposed, would be where you could put the septic. And Creus has already been on site and looking at that.
Okay, great, thanks. That sounds like that would be reasonable and not too expensive, hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, David.
And just
All
just
right.
to add to that too, Golden Globe is not intending to use that area for staging, actually, and lay down. They want to keep all of that work up along Trunk Road, with the understanding that they cannot be on the multi-use path.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, there should be ample room there once a few trees are taken out of the way. All right, well, thank you for that. And okay, so we will move on to 4.2 if there's no further discussion on that, which is the fundraising update. And over to Jacqueline Massey, fundraising coordinator. Jackie.
Great. So upon council's decision to move forward with the capital project, we updated the fundraising work plan to prioritize activities, and that including the cultural spaces grant, the need for additional donor solicitation, ongoing donor stewardship, the launch of a seat sponsorship campaign and a naming opportunities campaign, as well as ongoing communications, including the production and revision of key fundraising documents, such as a case for support and the business plan. Following our communications update announcing that the project was proceeding, that was in early December, during which we sent out newsletters to the public and our donors and pledgers. We received, I guess, what we call a light flurry of donations totaling approximately $5,500 at the end of the year. And in January, Gillian and I presented to the Community Foundation to give them an update on the project. They were very receptive and encouraged us to apply for a community impact grant, which we are planning to do. Funding availability on that is about $15,000. So it'd be very specific to an ask. I've been in contact with Ileana Lang. She is the grant officer at Cultural Spaces, and she'll be working with us on the application to the federal government. And as it happens, she's the same individual that we worked on when we were doing the co-comments. So she's recommended that the bulk of the funding ask be targeted in the 2023-2024 budget, as much as of the available funds for the next fiscal year have already been earmarked, but we can still go ahead and apply in that year and could include some ask as well. So we are proceeding with her guidance and intend to submit an application within a few months. And our ask, we believe, will be in the range of about 1.5 million. And we've been working with the finance department and updated the fundraising budget and administrative processes. And of course, we've been focusing on the ground blessing ceremony and ensuring donors are being acknowledged for the support they've given us that has helped us arrive at this place of celebration. So, and we'll talk more about that, or Gillian, I think, has an update on that. So yeah, I think that kind of sums it up for me. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Jackie, just a clarification on that timing for the cultural grant. So it's filled up now for 22-23 or 20?
Well, I think she said 60% of the budget is approximately asked for. So what they've done is they've kind of earmarked that. But she said, if you're starting up and if you, again, with our, this will be a grant that will help support the costs of the performing arts spaces and any arts and cultural related spaces to kind of keep that later on in the project.
Okay. All right.
So
that would be in fiscal 23 then?
23, 24.
Oh,
So,
okay.
I mean, it could be as early as January 2023, but yeah, absolutely. That will be their fiscal year for sure.
No, the federal fiscal year starts with April 1st. They've got a March year end. So that's why it's 23-24. So if it's in their 23-24 budget, it wouldn't come out till sometime after the 1st of April.
The summer of 23, probably at the earliest.
And it is a matching grant, and we would have to be submitting our expenses, which they then match. So, you know, we would be incurring those expenses and then applying for their support after that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Allison, any further discussion there?
So have you been actually collecting on the pledges?
Well, we had collected on the bulk of them. We need to have a conversation about the major donor pledges and when we would like them to come in. So we haven't had that conversation yet, but the donors are aware that, you know, the project is underway, and so yeah, we need to talk to them individually about timing on that.
So Gillian's report yesterday, and when we had our strategic planning session, indicated 75% of the pledges had been received. So is that 75% of the number of pledges or 75% of the dollars?
That's the number of pledges. Yeah.
Okay, so
we haven't received our, you know.
So not 75% of the dollars.
50,000 donors, and we haven't received the 50,000 level ones. We haven't received. Yeah. So yeah. So
it's not large dollars in the scheme of the whole pledging system.
In terms of what's in the bank, no. But we do need to work in terms of time planning for that when we need those dollars to come in.
Okay, thank you, Jackie.
And I'll just add one little bit to
go ahead,
that. We did have the first confirmed sponsoring of a seat with that in December as well, with actually January she ended up contributing, and she gave us a beautiful quote as well to be able to use for sort of promoting the fundraising program, which is wonderful. So, and that was it went over well with the Bowen Island Community Foundation. Was our first trial with that quote too. So it's nice to have the support of the community vocally with that.
But that's not the first seat that's been sold.
No, there's been others that have been sold. We've sold about
That's good.
6 now.
Yeah.
Wonder what happened to mine, fell through the cracks.
No, it's
Your
there.
your seat is here at Municipal Hall. It's
that's right.
Yeah, in the hallway. Yeah.
In the hallway.
You should be sitting in it right now.
Yeah. Well, you know, just a bit of a side note, not to derail things,
With all
but
my
I
friends.
really do think that we need to highlight those. We need to bring those out and get them into a high visibility space. And I thought, just had a random thought, well, maybe we get a little video or a little like something, and people can literally sit down in those seats and look at a little presentation on the project, and like have a little donation box beside it. But just sorry, random thought there. Sorry.
Put them in the back of the pickup and drive.
One more question, Gary. Jackie, you mentioned an updated business case. Could we get a copy of that?
Well, it hasn't been done yet.
I thought you said you'd done it.
It's on the work plan as a priority. And that actually, interesting, when we did meet with the Community Foundation, that was a question that was asked. What is your business plan? How is your business plan? Has it been updated? What is it looking like? Is it available? So we just know that we absolutely have to have that, especially when we're talking to new potential donors.
Here. Okay, thanks, Allison. We're going to move on to 4.3, which is a communication update. And that's on to Gillian Drake, Manager of Rec and Community Services. Go ahead, Gillian.
Thank you. So we've been working with Sophie quite a lot on this. So it's been primarily Jackie, Sophie, and I doing the work on the communications. And Jackie mentioned a number of communications that went out in December to the distribution list specifically for the community center, but also to the full municipal distribution list, because we decided that this is fully municipal news and it doesn't have to be solely those who identify themselves through that community center list. So that really increases the number of recipients of the email, which helps considerably. So we've been working on a bit of a plan moving forward, but at this time it's been really focused on that land blessing ceremony and getting the website updated. So there's actually quite a lot of work that has been gone into updating the community center website, Our Island Place. There's still quite a bit more to be done, but the aim is to have that done within the next week or two, to have that fully up to date. So we're taking a fresh look, and really from the perspective of it's happening, it's exciting, rather than it being sort of much more forward thinking and it was in the past a lot more sort of ambitious, and we hope to do this and hope to do that. So now it's really happening. We've been really tightening up the pages related to donating directly, because they were slightly convoluted in how the process played out. And so we're really tightening that up, which is a lot of work with interfacing with Kila, which is the fundraising software that it links to directly. We've also been, as she said, we spoke with the Community Foundation, and we feel like, you know, this is the time where we really need to get out and speaking to anyone who will have us to talk about it and sing the praises and the excitement of the project. It's the time for that. We've also been making sure to keep key stakeholders involved in knowing what's going on. For example, the school district 45, you know, it's really utmost importance that they're aware of everything that's going on so they can communicate to their families, and we're ensuring the safety of the kids in close proximity, you know, at the site and moving up and down past the site in the beginning of the day and after school. So it's a piece that's very important that the school is aware of every aspect of it, and that the construction firm, like everyone related to construction, understands the importance of the proximity to the school, exactly what that means for the kids' safety. So making sure we're staying in touch with everyone, and we'll be letting you all know too when the website is fully up to date. It's got some work still.
All right. Thanks, Gillian. Any questions there for Gillian? All right, move on to new business, and we'll go straight to the land blessing ceremony and back to Gillian. Thank you.
Great. Well, we're pretty excited about this. Next Tuesday at 11 o'clock. Hopefully everyone has it on your calendars. We're very happy too that Bob Baker and the Squamish Eagle Song Dancers are not only available, but really enthusiastic about participating next week. So some of you may have met Bob in the past. He has done a lot of work on Bowen Island. He's done a lot of work with the school. He worked with Sarah Haxby starting over 10 years ago to coordinate an event called Whale Day, which has been a sort of a culmination of Truth and Reconciliation Week as they approach it at the school. It's really a celebration of the return of whales to the Salish Sea and recognizing our place within the Salish Sea and our connection to the land and to the historical culture in the area. So Bob's very keen. He was involved with the health center land blessing last year.
Good.
Yeah. So it will be a fairly similar ceremony to what he did last time. There'll be a total of four of them coming. So Bob and 3 other dancers, and they will be going around and blessing the entire site, the footprint of the building. And there'll be songs. He spoke to me quite a bit about the importance of the different songs and how they very carefully choose the appropriate song for the occasion. So he'll be sharing some of that cultural history and information with the group as the dancers go through and bless the entire site of it. So we'd also like to have some speeches. Mayor Andrew, I hope you're.
Yes.
Well, we know that you're ready for that.
Go.
We'll make sure to give you some talking points. I just received a message from Sophie related to this. Sorry, I'm just going to quickly look because I think she just said, yes, Patrick Wheeler is coming to the land blessing ceremony. I just got the notification right now. So that's
excellent.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, and there are some quotes that the minister has sent in. So there will be representation from different levels of government, which is wonderful. So the intention is, in terms of an agenda, Mayor Andrew, we'd like to start with you and then move into the land blessing component with Bob and the dancers. We will have Bruce Russell's 6-handled gold gilded shovel. We'll have, so we can have a great photo op with that. So we'll have to decide together, you know, who's on the handle. And then we'd like to conclude by offering anyone in attendance the opportunity to walk around the site and have a bit of a guided tour of what the building will be and the features within it. So I'm hoping to get out in advance and actually put some stakes in the ground to mark the corners and the entrance and things like that. So
yeah, I'll help you with that, Gillian. I've already actually done it, but I think there's a lot of different tape out there now for different things that have been done, but I did that once, all the outside corners and stuff, so I can certainly help you with that.
That's fantastic.
Right.
Thank you. Because I wasn't sure how to get started. So,
Gillian, can I just add that we sent a number of individualized invitations to major donors and to key individuals. So, and we've had some really great response, including again from major donors and champions of the project. So it's she's looking forward to the event.
and it's been publicized in the undercurrent, in the municipal news. School District 45, or BICS specifically, sent it out to all their families today, I believe. This morning it went out to them, inviting everybody. And as Jackie said, we had this list. There was over 100 names on the invite list. So we didn't request RSVP specifically, so it'll be, we're not sure exactly who will be in attendance, but an enthusiastic response for sure.
Definitely Paul Houston will be there with bells on.
Oh, is that great?
Which I'm surprised actually, because he's been ill. He was he's just out of the hospital. So I was kind of surprised, but he said he'll try to make it. So he says
I'm sure he'll be there if he has to crawl on his hands and knees.
I think so.
Yeah.
And the sun is supposed to be out according to the weather forecast.
Woo! Wow.
Yeah, and we do
All
have
sounds good.
major donor that will be attending. So I would suggest that probably you would be in the photo op on the shovel handle. So again, we didn't need to determine who the 6 will be or who will surround. So we will do a photo shoot of that. And then we're going to use that to add to the momentum for the campaigns that will follow.
Yeah, obviously we're going to have to check with him and see if he wants to be anonymous or.
I'm talking about the one who's not anonymous.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Not anonymous. Yeah. The $1
Perfect.
million legacy donor.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. So that's it. Any questions for Jackie?
Is there anybody coming representing the province? Because they were part of the donation from the.
Jordan will be sitting, I think. He'll be in the house.
Well, the house is in session, so that's why it was.
Yeah.
We're told that we might have a little quote from Minister Osborne.
Oh, good. Awesome.
To read out. It hasn't been fully confirmed, or if it has, I might have missed it. But yeah, we made sure that we notified all of the funders with adequate time to. It's unfortunate that both the House and I believe the Parliament is sitting too. So it's. I thought Parliament was sitting, so it's impressive that Patrick's able to attend.
Well, maybe with the timing, he's able to come because it's Eastern time. It'll be 2:00 in the afternoon. So
right, if they're doing Zoom stuff, yeah.
I also mentioned on the VIP list were a lot of the committee members, volunteers of earlier task groups and who worked on this project, and including Sherry Ulrich, who actually haven't heard whether or not she's going to make it, but so just so you know that we did include everyone. And just to
I apologize. I told Gillian I was going to go back through my files and tell her who the chairs of all the committees were, and it got right out of my head.
We looked it up.
So you got John Reed got an invitation too then, did he?
Yeah.
He
did.
Yeah. I don't know if we've got enough space for all those people.
Right.
What a problem.
We're not gonna be able to park there.
Yeah, true that. I did mention Shauna and Christine, and I guess they've been asked, but they can't attend, I guess, Jillian.
Well, they're working.
That's too bad, because they were certainly real power movers in this whole thing.
Well, they said they absolutely won't miss the opening ceremony.
Okay, that's right. Okay, so is that it for the land blessing? I'm really looking forward to that. I think, it's going to be very significant, and we'll get set up for that pretty well. So, we'll talk about that as we go on. Other business, under new business, other new business. Anybody got anything for that, or we will just keep moving on? We are a little, quite a bit ahead of schedule here, but I think we've got everybody we need to sort of move on to the closed agenda. So if that's okay with everybody, we'll certainly do that. So 5.3 is to move to a closed meeting, and the recommendation is that the Mayor's Standing Committee, no, wrong one. The Mayor's Community Center Select Steering Committee. Wait a minute. Community Center Select Steering Committee meeting move to a closed meeting pursuant to section 90-1 of the Community Charter. Meetings may or must be closed to the public. And I'll ask for a second on that.
Second.
Thank you, David, and all in favor, aye. All right. So there's